Well, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in our Wellness Revolution webinar series. Our ultimate goal is to provide education on a variety of topics that ultimately are going to help your health, are going to help your life, or maybe somebody that you know in your family or your community's life. So we always appreciate you guys sharing the information with others. Whether it's now currently on the webinar, feel free to pass on, either invite them to the group or have them jump on Zoom, or the link will be available later so you can absolutely share this with people afterward. Because today we have information that I tell you is absolutely critical. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kellie Lupsha, and I'm going to be helping moderate. And my background is I'm a physical therapist specializing in neurological disorders. But I have an optimal wellness center because our ultimate goal is to help people stay healthy before they have issues going on in their health. My mother was a teacher of 30 years. She is now long retired. But today I have the pleasure of bringing on one of my absolute dear friends, mentors, Ms. Brenda Dahlgren, who is a teacher herself of over 30 years right here in our South Orange County area. She's down in San Clemente, California. And let me tell you, she has seen so much change over the past 30 years. And we're going to talk about some of those challenges tonight and what she's seen and what we can do about it. So you guys, without any further ado, I am going to have Brenda kick us off.
Thanks, Kellie. I am so excited to be here tonight. I'll have to excuse my voice a little bit. A little too much talking in the classroom, maybe. But like Kellie said, I'm Brenda Dahlgren. I've been an elementary school teacher for the last 30 plus years and spent most of my time in fifth grade. Years, but absolutely love my job. I am a second career teacher. I spent the first few years out of college in the corporate world and just realized that I needed something a little bit more fulfilling. So working with kids and having days that are not the same. There's not ever been 2 days the same in an elementary classroom. I can tell you that for sure.
And Brenda, can you just give them a little bit again? We have a lot of wind right now, you guys, in our area. And so maybe Brenda and my connection might be a tiny bit fuzzy at times, but it just went out, Brenda, when you were saying that you've been a fifth grade teacher for most of your career.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It is really windy where I am. So, yeah, so I have been 15 or 16 years, I think, in fifth grade, but the rest of my career was in third through sixth grade. So I was just saying that no 2 days are ever the same. It's a challenge every day. And before, I don't know if you heard, but before I was in the corporate world, when I first graduated from college, and I just realized that I needed a little bit something more, not challenging, but something that provided me with a little bit more fulfillment. So I've definitely found that in the last 30 years of teaching. I'm also the mom of 2 grown adult children who have both, grown up and become very successful adults, and I'm married for the last 32 amazing husband, Dennis, who is, excuse me, being a parent first and foremost has always been my number one job, but teaching has really brought a lot of fulfillment into me as well. I love working with children. And I do have to say that just on this topic, kids are life in the class so much in the last 30 years. There's so many more distractions and things that kids have to kind of sift and sort through to be successful. And so that's kind of where I want to go tonight, is just talking about how kids the kids haven't changed by any means, but our world has changed, and they're distracted by technology, by social media, video games, sports, social challenges, family challenges. And so my goal tonight is just to give you guys some simple ways to help your kids be more successful, both in the classroom and at home. I by no means claim to know all the answers, but hopefully some of this will help. So these are just 4 areas that I'm going to focus on tonight. So the challenges that I've seen: organization, lack of concentration and focus, motivation and an attitude shift in children. And then there's this big technology. It's a great, awesome thing, but it also brings challenges to both children and, in my opinion, adults. So I'm going to start with organization. In my classroom, this is my motto. I truly say this every single day. My kids know that when I say the word organization, I'm going to end it with is the key to success. Everything starts with organization. If your desk isn't organized, if your backpack isn't organized, if your binder isn't organized, you're going to really struggle throughout the day. You're not going to be able to find things. And so I always tell parents, so I thought of tonight when I was getting started, this is going to be kind of a mini parent conference for some of us. So these are a lot of the things that I say to parents in conferences is that, if kids aren't organized at home or in their day-to-day life, they're going to have a hard time, finding things and getting things done. So I'm always, telling them, make sure that there's a designated spot for homework. They really need a routine. They need consistent study times, come home from school, take a break, go play. But then when homework time is here, it's really consistent. Take a break when they need to, but basically making sure that their materials are organized. They have everything right where they need them. They can find the pencils. They can find the materials that they need for the day. And then super important too is to keep everything organized. I find a lot of kids struggle in the morning with trying to find things that they know they finished their homework, but it didn't end up in their backpack for whatever reason. So trying to make sure that before kids go to bed or before they're done with their homework, routine that they put everything back in their backpack. It's sitting by the door, it's sitting somewhere. And so that routine is kind of ingrained in them so that they can have a peaceful morning without that chaos. I know we used to do that at my house. It's like, get this, get that, cook breakfast. And so if you have a little bit more organization to your life, everything is ready the next day and there's no issues with that. So organization is huge. It's a key, not only for kids, but for adults too. So, and then this is one of the biggest challenges that I see in kids today. And people want to go to the, oh my gosh, my kid has ADD or my ADHD, but often it's really not that. And of course, I'm not here to diagnose anything or tell you that you're, any of that, but kids are just so distracted, like I said at the beginning, by, everything just flashes at them on TV or on their video games or their phones and things like that. So that we want to make sure that kids can stay focused and whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, they can do it without being distracted. So just, taking one thing at a time, breaking their tasks into shorter, easier chunks. If they have a long assignment that they have to finish, breaking it down into, okay, 10 minutes, do this. And I'm a huge advocate for the timer. I tell my parents all the time, if you just say, go do your homework and you expect them to go for an hour, they're going to be distracted. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think there's any kids out there or adults out there that can sit for an hour and just knock it out. So use a timer, give them a 10-minute, time period. In that 10 minutes, this is what you should be able to get done. Have your list ready for them. Most schools nowadays have kids we call them reminder binders at my school, or planners, or whatever the school calls them, where the kids actually write their homework down. But it can work the same way with chores or with sports practice. Make that list, use a timer, and then hugely important to turn off the TV. Turn off a lot of kids now, elementary students, they have phones, and so we have to, we're not going to deny the fact that they have them, but we want to make sure that the kids can monitor them. So, turn off their phone or put it in another room while they're trying to get their homework done. Is just a really, really good strategy. It helps them, just stay focused. And also taking short breaks, go outside, run around the block, do some jumping jacks, go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, whatever they need to do to deal with those distractions, because it's going to kind of stay in their head if they don't deal with it.
Yes. And hey, Brenda, you know what, before you go on from there, something myself, I am also a parent of 4 kids. And, you know, I think a huge advocate in this is also role modeling. And I think for many of us, and especially moms out there, it was like multitasking galore all the time. And so there'd be either TV in the background and you're cooking and you're trying to get something else done and your kid comes to you with something, and you know, we're all role modeling that behavior. So I, in our household, am trying to say, you know what, when they bring me questions, I want to have my time for them with questions. When I'm doing another task, I want to turn off my, you know, television or whatever else is going on. And so I think if we can role model that for the kids, they understand what that is. But the other question I had for you, Brenda, is my kids always, actually 3 of the 4, loved listening to music in the background and really felt that that helped. I initially, as a parent when they were young, thought that was a distraction, but I heard that actually for some people it is not. How do you feel about music?
I agree. Some children, some kids really need that music to stay focused. And then there's other kids who it will be a distraction for. So you just really honestly have to figure it out for the kids. And I play music in my classroom, but I don't do it all the time. I have, you know, 33 different brains all trying to work together. Some of them, they can't handle it because their brain goes to the music and that's what they're thinking about. But I was one who, I like to have music in the background when I studied. Some of my friends, roommates in college, would have the TV on and I'd be like, I can't have the talking, but I could have the music without any lyrics. So I think it depends, honestly, a person by person basis, but definitely. And some kids can do their homework with music, TV, video games, and they get it done and they get it done well. So you just have to figure out what works for each of your kids, and they're all going to be different, like you said. 3 of your 4 did it, and 2 don't, or whatever. So
yes, as parents, I just think it's important for you guys to try to optimize their environment, and knowing in the beginning probably less is better.
Absolutely, yeah, especially when they're younger, because there's so many other things, like I said, going on in their brains. When I was growing up, or I hate to be I sound like my mom. When I was a kid, we didn't have all these distractions. I didn't have a phone, and even my adult children weren't bombarded with so many distractions. So it's really honestly been in the last probably 10 to 12 years where some of those distractions are really at the forefront, and kids need to be taught how to deal with it, because it doesn't come normal to them. That's all they know. One thing that's interesting is that, when we were growing up, or when I was in school, technology wasn't around. And so these kids have technology, they have answers instantly. They don't have to go and do hours and hours of reading and research. They can Google, what is a blah, 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 and they can find it like that. So, it's that double-edged sword. And I'm going to get to technology in a minute, but so concentration. So along with focus, we want to make sure that kids can concentrate and that they can stay focused. So we need to give them more time to do that. So I just actually today saw a really good article on kids meditation and how beneficial it is for kids to do just a simple, quiet time during the day. And there's a school in San Francisco in this article that they incorporated meditation, or they called it quiet time, into their schools. And they really saw such a great improvement in kids' concentration, where if they just knocked out all noise, no one talked, and it wasn't, silent reading time. It was literally silence and just thinking and letting your brain go. And I'm really honestly doing a lot of my own little research on that, because it's something that I have just recently started to think about. Sometimes it's 2 minutes and then my brain's like, I'm going, in 16 different places, but it really helps me to focus. So I know that it has to be good for kids too. And I know, Kellie, you and Arthur are big advocates of meditating, but some of the other habits that we have really learned about in the last couple of years, or over the years, is that kids really need, not only quality time with each subject or with each assignment or with their family, but they also need, exercise and a healthy diet, proper diet. There's actually studies out there also that link our gut health, the microbiome in young children, infants, to their behavior later in life. And behavior disorders can sometimes be linked to what's in our gut. So we want to make sure that our kids are eating healthy, they're coming to school with a healthy breakfast, healthy snacks, healthy lunches. And so they're not, putting all this sugar in their body, which is one of the, big downfalls that I see. Kids think that, or parents, send snacks with their kids to school, and it's really doing them a disservice because it's not fueling their brains. It's not giving them, information for their brains. So we want to make sure that our brains are activated and ready for school. And another thing too is sleeping. We have to make sure our kids get a good night's sleep. I'm trying, really hard to get good night's sleep. 8 to 12 hours of sleep for a child is super important, because that's when their body has time to refuel and take care of the things that happen to them during the day, so that they can get a good start for the following day. So, good sleep habits, proper diet, exercise, getting them outside every day, which for some kids is not a problem. We have so much go and play this sport and that sport and the other sport, but there's a lot of kids that I'm finding that don't get proper exercise, and they sit inside all day and they watch television, or they, play video games. And so we have to have a good, healthy balance of that as well. So I talked a little bit about activation. So when there's a lot of science out, and thankfully through Kellie and Arthur, I've learned about activating our bodies and activating our brains. And, there's some all natural products on the market that are really awesome. So I'm going to show you on the next slide. These are some examples of kids' schoolwork. A very small child on the right, obviously the coloring, but you can see in the before pictures how disorganized their ideas and their thoughts were. And the spelling test on the left is a 9-year-old little boy who you can just tell on the left side was just very unfocused, unorganized. And after activating his brain and getting some of these all natural products, it just made a world of difference for him. You can just see on the right side that, it's not about the spelling. It's more about the organization and the lining up of the letters and just the neatness overall. So if that's going on the paper, you can only imagine what's going on in, little boy's brain as he's organizing his books and his materials, and as he's trying to go through the day. I mean, I don't, for a lot of us, for most of us, school is a long, long time ago, but a school day is fast. We don't have 10 or 15 minutes to kind of go, okay, now it's time to go switch over to math time. It's like, okay, reading's over, get your math books out, let's do this. So that, that organization and focus has to really be there. So, I'm gonna actually flip this back to you, Kellie, and maybe from a neuroscience perspective, what kind of things have you seen with activating?
Yeah, Brenda, such a great question. And everybody, I'll kind of start with the fact that our kids today their health and their body and their brains are being bombarded more of things than even we were. We're, of course, also there today as well. But when we were children, we didn't have as much, even though there was some, of pesticides, GMOs, all the pollutants, the benzenes, the EMFs from all the cell phone radiation. I mean, I could go on and on, like all the toxic chemicals in the world, even the things that we're cleaning our house with, we're washing our hair with. So what research is actually showing, which is a staggering statistic, everyone, that when a baby is born and they actually test their blood, the babies have already been exposed through utero to 286 toxins.
Wow.
So it's no wonder that as they're starting this development and learning process, some of them are having many more difficulties than ever before. And I think, Brenda, you definitely see this in the classroom, right? Like you see more issues with distractibility and concentration and focus, right? That 30 years ago you didn't see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, we as parents and as a community have to be more diligent than ever about all those things I just talked about. So definitely take a look in your household, what's going on. And so what's interesting is now research is understanding all that. And I think if we're all just adults talking, we can say we all have moments of not feeling like our brain is like, connecting, right? So normally you and I historically would reach for something that we would feel a pick-me-up. It could be for some people a cup of coffee, for other people's a soda. Right now, all over the place is all of these, energy drinks loaded full of sugar and unfortunately other chemicals in them for us. But what are we all looking for? We're actually looking for our brain to just connect and go, ta-da, that's what I was hoping for, focus, concentration. And so Brenda's 100% right. There are all natural, there's actually supplements, and there's also drinks that are called activators. Specifically, I will just say NRF2 is the most researched pathway in activation, which helps your brain connect. And today is not a day for science about what's happening in the brain. You just have to believe me with my background in neuroscience and seeing patients in my office in neurology all day long, that when the right blend of ingredients and all natural ingredients is put together, there's a synergy that unlocks these pathways in the body for focus, clarity, and concentration. So these two kids that you're seeing examples of before and after are after 2 weeks of their brains being activated. And it is remarkable. And I have seen this in my clinic too. It's not just your schoolwork, but it's how kids will interact with other kids, how they behave at home, how they can get themselves organized and get dressed for the day, how they don't need 10 reminders to help get out the door for the day. I mean, it goes so far beyond. And so honestly, I would say, figure out what that is, because what we thought maybe was healthy and we were sending the kids out the door with a glass of orange juice and, a bowl of cereal, we're now realizing that actually all that is a huge sugar spike, which they're wide awake and alert for the first maybe hour of the day, but they're going to come crashing down after that sugar, comes through their bloodstream, and now they have no reserves, right? So diet to me is absolutely huge. Getting some healthy fats, trying to get your kids from the beginning to eat, whether it's eggs, avocados, nuts, seeds, get in some protein so that their brain can connect more optimally. But activation is truly the wave of the future. I think there's going to be more and more coming out about how we can activate our brain to optimize it. The last word I'll kind of throw out there for you guys is this word called nootropics. And nootropic is basically a drink that is a brain altering drink, meaning can your brain perform more optimally? Everybody's looking for the edge of getting more brain performance. And so they're calling these drinks nootropics. And I just, in case you've heard of that before, I want you to just be aware of that, or what's called, again, NRF2 activation. And at the end, we can give you more information and literature or videos should you guys be interested, but it's a really hot topic. Thanks, Bren.
Oh, no, thank you for explaining the much. Let's talk about how we can motivate our kids. So that's another challenge that sometimes we have, because I'm bored. This isn't fun, and so much more than just asking your kids when they come home, how was school? Did you learn anything? You get a lot of, yeah, whatever. Maybe more in the older kids, but so take an interest in what your kids are learning, and definitely this is a big buzzword out there, is to have a growth mindset. If you feel like you can do it, then you're going to be way more successful than being like, oh, I'm no good at math. Well, if you say that, then your brain's going to, believe it. So we want to have a growth mindset, so that says that might be challenging for you, but if you put forth your best effort, then you're going to do the best you can. And that's what my parents taught me. And I remember that. And I try to, put that onto my own kids and my students is, you're not going to be the best at everything, but if you put your best effort into everything you do, you're going to be the best you can at what you can be good at. And another thing for parents is, be involved in your kids' school. Communicate with the teachers, attend school events, make sure you're going to parent conferences, make sure if your students, if your teachers are offering volunteer time and you're available to do that. It's really fun to see kids' faces light up when their parents walk in the room to volunteer. So, and encourage your kids to find things that they like and, their passions and maybe something they dislike, you could turn it around for them or use that to help them with their struggles and motivation to get their tasks done. And another thing that we do in the classroom is we talk about how different kids learn in different ways. So there's different modalities of learning. Some kids need to move around, some kids need to sit still, some kids can't sit still. So you really have to see how your child learns best. And if you know that, communicate that with the teacher, communicate with the teacher about your kids over the years, because the teacher can really, really help rather than us trying to figure it out and the parents telling us later, oh yeah, well, I knew that or this and that. So, and then of course, this is kind of the obvious, but celebrate those achievements with your kids, even if they're little tiny achievements, if they've, the nines in their multiplication. I've kind of left the biggie for last. Technology is that blessing and a curse. There's so many things. And if you take a look up there at the top, those two pictures in there, back in the day when there was no technology, you can kind of see the difference between the then and now pictures. Look at the engagement in the children in the first picture. Nothing distracting them on their desk and they're focusing on the teacher. I see, the kids are looking at their computers, which is a great thing. We are a one-to-one computers with our kids. Our kids have computers on their desk all day long. So it's really challenging as a teacher to make sure that we are motivating them and keeping them engaged in more than just technology. We have to make sure that they have, a very rounded education. And so it's important at home to do the same thing so that we don't see the physical and the social negative impacts that technology, could have. By, reducing or limiting their screen time, encouraging them to play outside, like I said earlier. And no, that doesn't mean taking your computer outside on the front porch, like the little picture in the right. Because it's super important that we are interacting with others. I see that as another challenge in the classroom, is that kids really struggle talking to each other and having that face-to-face interaction, because this is what they're doing. They're constantly texting each other, and instead of having the phone, picking up the phone and talking to each other. It is what it is. I don't think we're going to change it, so we just have to figure out with what we have, make it better and continue to encourage our kids to interact with each other in a more face-to-face way. So I'm super happy that you asked me to talk about this, Kelly, because it is a passion of mine. Obviously, I've been doing this for a really long time. I love what I do. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm proud of my career, and I'm proud of how many lives I've touched and hopefully helped, and hopefully you got something out of this. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, Brenda. No, you guys, first and foremost, was that absolutely stellar. I learned something, right? It is absolutely amazing. And I hope you can even take one of those things, right? Look at in your family, in your household of your children. Is it motivation? Is it organization? Is it focus? What is it that you could really help them with? And make one small change, right? If you try to change everything in your household all at once, your kids might totally go boycott you. But also, it's hard as a family to continue to lay a foundation if you're going to change everything at once, because it's hard to stay on task and keep all that implemented. So I would tell you, implement one new strategy. Maybe it's just being sure that their backpacks are organized every night before they go to school. Then maybe you're going to lay a strategy of, really monitoring their bedtime or their screen time. Maybe you're going to add something to change, what your children are eating. So just layer in one small thing at a time. And I think if you do, you'll start noticing, bigger and bigger changes, because I would agree what Brenda said from the beginning. I think many people overall are or think, oh, maybe my kid has ADD or ADHD. But honestly, it's just our environment. And if we can change and structure our own environment, then it will make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And if I could just say one more thing, I think the one word that I try to convey to people as I'm talking about this is consistency. If we can just be consistent with our kids and do what we say we're going to do, and just, set those boundaries, because believe it or not, kids really thrive when they have a structured routine and boundaries. So just, stay consistent with your kids, stay loving, but, be consistent with what you are trying to help them build.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Brenda, that is great. So you guys, thank you so much for joining our webinars. We have these every single week on a variety of topics. You can join the event. You can watch them on Zoom. If anybody has questions further, please reach out to whoever invited you to see this educational webinar tonight, and they can lead you to more information. If you're really thinking like, wow, something really piqued my interest, I would like to know more, then just reach out, because that's ultimately our goal, is to be able to provide an educational platform for those of us to continue in this learning process. Just like Brenda said, we even as adults need to have a growth mindset. I love that. So Brenda, thank you so much for all of that amazing knowledge tonight. And thanks all of you guys for joining this. Please be sure to share this with somebody else that you feel their child or their family may really benefit. So with that, everybody, have an amazing night.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, Brent, see if you can end it.
I think I just had to stop sharing.